Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing our last lesson of the week today. Tomorrow, you're going to have a lesson quiz, so this will be it for today, and then we'll move on to the next part of our Unit 9. So today, we're going to be doing something very similar to what we did yesterday, but instead of using an equation where you just multiply a decimal by a number, we're going to be actually using proportions. So you have to remember how to solve proportions. Two really simple steps. One, cross multiply. Two, divide. As before, these are going to probably be like kind of some word problems. So we need to make sure that our proportions are set up correctly. That's the most difficult part. But the percent proportion is really, really nice. I really like it. I use this all the time when I'm solving problems. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, a percent proportion. A percent proportion, our learning target for today is I can solve percent problems using a proportion. Now I have two different proportions that I can use. Both of them are called a percent proportion. So our first one is part over whole equals percent over 100. And we should know that a part over whole, that's the definition of a fraction. And then my other one is the words is and of and percent over 100. So you'll notice that the right side of my equations or my proportions are exactly the same. Now the one on the left, that is the actual percent proportion. However, the words is and of are action words or buzzwords to help us figure out what is the part and what is the whole. So let's do 3 examples together, and hopefully that'll help explain it a little bit more. So my first example here, and I'm going to do all the number 1s. I'm not going to do the number 2s. So my first example is I have what is 20% of 75. Now I have 3 parts of my proportion that I need to identify. I need to identify the part, the whole, and the percent. I don't need to do the fourth because I know that the fourth part of my proportion is going to be 100. So the first thing I notice is I have 20%. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write that down where I wrote my percent. Now the next thing I notice is it says of 75. So what is 20% of 75? So the of 75 is going to be my whole. And I'm using the word of to help me with that. I'm looking for the part. So that's going to be my variable. All right, let's go ahead and set up my proportion. So I'm going to draw my lines. Now the first thing I'm going to write is my 100. I'm always going to put a 100 in the bottom right-hand corner. The next thing that I like to write is my percent. The percent always goes above the 100. Now I can fill out the left side of my proportion. The left side of my proportion is a fraction, so it is part over whole. I do not know what the part is, and I know that the whole is 75. Now I can go ahead and I can solve my proportion by cross multiplying and dividing. 100 times x is 100x, and 75 times 20 is 1,500. Now I divide by 100 on both sides, and x equals 15. All right, let's take a look at another example. What percent of 60 is 15? The first thing that I notice in this problem is I don't have the percent. There's no percent in this problem, so I know that that's going to be my variable. My next part I have is the of 60 and the is 15. The of 60 is going to be my whole, and the word of helps me with that. And the is 15 is going to be my part, and the word is helps me with that. Now I can set up my proportion. And the first thing I do when I'm solving a percent proportion is put the number 100 in the bottom right-hand corner, because that's always the same. The next thing I do is the percent, which goes above the 100. I do not know what the percent is. Now I can fill out the left side of my equation by doing part over whole. My part is 15, and my whole is 60. Now I solve my proportion by cross multiplying and dividing. 60 times x is 60x, and 100 times 15 is 1,500. This time I'm going to be dividing by 60. And x equals 25. All right, one more example. 40% of what number is 14? The first thing I notice is my 40%. So I'm going to write that down as my percent. And then I have at the end, I have this is 14, and that tells me what my part is. I don't have any other numbers there, so I know that the whole is going to be my variable. Now I have enough information to set up my proportion, always putting the number 100 in the bottom right-hand corner. Percent goes over 100, and that's 40. And then the left side of my proportion is part over whole. Well, I know my part is 14, and I do not have my whole. So now I cross multiply. X times 40 is 40x. And 100 times 14 is 1,400. Now I divide. This time I'm dividing by 40. And I end up with x equals 35. All right. Now word problems I think are actually even easier than just the basic problems that we just did. I'm not going to solve these problems with you because I know that you are all capable of cross multiplying and dividing, but I want to show you how to set them up. So in problem number 1, it says that Faith got 35 questions correct on her science test. There are 40 questions on her test. What percent of the questions did Faith answer correctly? So we are trying to find the percent. So I would need to know what my part is, what my whole is, and what my percent is. I don't know what my percent is, so that's going to be my variable. The problem tells me that there are 40 questions on the test. So on the whole test, there's 40 questions. And it says that Faith got 35 questions right. Well, that's only part of the test. Now I have enough information to set up my proportion. 100 always goes in the bottom right-hand corner, and percent goes above it. And then the left side of my equation is part over whole. And I can go ahead and I can cross multiply and divide. I like to set up one more of these problems with you. My next one says Jorge scores 48% of his team's goals. If his team had a total of 50 goals, how many goals did Jorge score? So I want to know how many goals Jorge scored. So I'm looking for part. So I know that we don't have the part, so that's going to be my variable. The whole would be how many goals the whole team scored. And the percent should just tell me the percent in the problem. So my percent is 48. And the whole is 50 goals because the whole team scored 50 goals. So I can set up my proportion by starting with 100 in the bottom right-hand corner and the percent over that. The part is my unknown and the whole is 50. And now I can go ahead and I can cross multiply and divide. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our lesson for today. You do have 2 Excels that you need to do. One is solving percent equations, so you set up the proportion, cross multiply and divide. And then the other one is going through the word problems and also setting up a proportion and cross multiplying and dividing. Don't forget to message me if you have any questions on Schoology. Tomorrow you have a lesson quiz. Bye, guys.